What's up guys, DPX here. Welcome back to another video, and it's the end of the year, and you guys might know me from my video game content, and yeah, I am a video game guy, but I'm also a big movie guy. First and foremost, I'm a video game guy, but I love movies too. That being said, as a movie fan, this year was shit. I mean, it was shit for everyone, but like, if you're a movie fan, especially if you're a fan of like the theatrical experience, this year was almost like a death note to you. But anyways, there are still quite a bit of movies that came out, not nearly as many like big theatrically released blockbusters as there usually would be, because, you know, 2020 happened, but despite that, I saw more movies this year than I have any other year. I guess I just had more free time on my hands to watch more movies on like Netflix and Disney Plus. 38 movies today, this year rather. So we're gonna rank them from worst to the best. Some of these movies I've reviewed, some of them I have not. There's actually a good number of them that I have not. So therefore, certain movies that I've already reviewed, I am not going to touch on that much. There'll be a few of them that I will like to rant on. There's a few of them that maybe I've had a change of opinion or whatever. So without further ado, let's get started. But before we do that, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe for news notifications, and leave a comment, and you'll be a loyal subscriber. So we start off this list with Artemis Fowl at number 38. And where do I begin with this one? God damn. Look, this movie was like, it was bad, very bad. Like, so bad that this was like a big budgeted, like, supposed to be blockbuster theatrical release, but it was put on Disney Plus, and, you know, a lot of these big movies that were thrown on Disney Plus or other streaming services like Mulan, Wonder Woman, Soul, movies like that were supposed to be big in the theaters. This movie, you know, Disney's kind of felt alright with putting this in the on Disney Plus. And, you know, Artemis Fowl, however, was thrown on Disney Plus for a different reason, and we can definitely see why. What is this movie? This, like, somehow, I don't know how it does this, but it manages to fly by every single thing in an hour and a half. Like, zoom by everything. But I felt like I was watching it for 3 fucking days. I don't get how you do that. I don't get how you move so fast, but it feels so slow. As for the plot, do you think I give a shit about the plot? I remember, like, oh, Artemis Fowl himself, he's a criminal mastermind. This person says he's a criminal mastermind. Don't see anything. That's one thing I remember. We don't see shit of, you know, him being a criminal mastermind. You gotta show, not tell. There's just, like, this movie was so boring and so bad. I really wish I never saw this. It wasted my time. So it's at the very bottom of the list. The next movie on the list is this Netflix movie called Holiday. Now, what is this movie? It's a rom-com on Netflix for Christmas. And honestly, kind of feels like I shouldn't have watched this movie, and I kind of feel a bit embarrassed admitting I did. But basically, it's a movie starring Emma Roberts as this one girl who, like, college girl who every year for the holidays when she comes home single, her mom always judges her, and then she finds this one dude who lives at the mall, and then they decide, you'll be my boyfriend, but just for holidays. But then they start to actually like each other, and but they don't want to admit it. Yada yada yada. a whole bunch of shit ensues. I can't think of a rom-com I actually liked. And I mean, like, I'm sure there is some that are good. I just can't think of any. This isn't it, though. First off, the jokes. The jokes are, like, the jokes are dumb and kind of disgusting at times. There's this one joke where, like, Emma Roberts' sister, who's a mother of four kids that are under the age of 10, by the way, they're talking to each other in front of the kids. One of them says whore, and haha funny, the kid heard that, goes, "Mommy, what's a whore?" And then if you just had it right there, that would have been a little funny. But then the mom decides to explain to the fucking 8-year-old what a whore is, and it's just like not even 8, probably like 6. She goes, "Mommy, I want to be a whore." That's not funny. That's disgusting. I guess maybe like saying it out loud is a bit funny. I guess I could see that, but like it wasn't funny in the film. It was just that's gross. Also, her I don't even remember who it was. The main character's mom encourages her daughter to have sex. What? Next up is Mulan. I didn't see this when it came out, and I'm quite happy about that. Not only because they charged you $30 for this fucking movie, even after you already pay for a subscription to Disney Plus, but also I am not supporting these live-action Disney remakes. So how did I see it? Well, they did drop it for free on Disney Plus, like earlier this month, I believe. So I watched it actually just the other day. At the time of recording, I actually just watched it yesterday. And I've heard mixed things. It was literally like straight down the middle. I've heard half good, half bad. So, what do I think? Judging by the movie's placement, you should know. You guys, like, seem surprised that this movie is a huge letdown. Dude, I said, I've been saying this since The Lion King, and to be quite honest, I've been sort of suspicious a bit before that. Like, they're just not gonna live up to the originals, and they're not gonna justify their existences. And I still think The Lion King, which is the one that really pissed me off, I still think The Lion King is worse than this one. I do think The Lion King is still the worst live-action Disney remake. Mulan is more infuriating, because while The Lion King is, like, sure, it's a shot-by-shot remake, but it also is, when you think about it, remaking that movie in live action is doomed from the start. How are you gonna make these photorealistic animals emote? Like, that took a lot away from that movie. Mulan is a movie you could do in live action, but they fucked it up. First off, you remove many things from the original. You remove many characters. You remove Mushu. Fucking Mushu. You remove the songs, and if you want to do that, fine. Fucking Mushu, imagining how he would look like in live action, it would be a curse that would never be lifted. Alright? But if you're gonna replace they tried replacing these things. Replace them with something, like, meaningful. Instead of Mushu, we get this, like, little phoenix wayfinder that you'll see in a video game, but that doesn't speak, doesn't emote, doesn't say anything, doesn't do anything, no charm, nothing. It's just there being like, oh, go this way. Like, you have so many, like, possibly good options. You got one bad option. You pick the one bad option there. The songs are weird too, I mean, or lack thereof. I'm not mad that there are no songs, though the songs did add a lot to the original Mulan. But the issue here is that instead of including the songs, they fucking, like, threw in certain lines from the songs as dialogue. It's just weird. It's sort of like if either you have the songs or not. You can't have both ways. The worst thing about this film, though, and it has nothing to do with the way they remade this film, kind of, but it has nothing to do with any of its merits as a remake. It has to do with its merits as a film. It's the editing. The editing is atrocious in this movie. The jump cuts are fucking ridiculous. They're all over the place. Like, you can't even, like, focus on what's happening because, like, you know, you'll have, like, one shot where, like, there's some fighting, and then the next shot you have it at a different angle, and then it goes back to the other angle, and then goes to a different angle. It's like, fucking let the fucking shots breathe. And I'm telling you, there were many fight scenes, like, you know, many fight scenes that I feel could have been actually really cool had the editing not been the worst fucking shit I've ever seen. Also, they added a new villain. I don't even know her name. I don't even know if her name was said in the fucking movie. And if so, who cares? So this evil witch bird lady, who, like, because of her, the original villain is he's just there. But at the same time, she's kind of just there. And then we see her and Mulan have a moment. The whole, like, you're not that different. You and I are not that different. And then responds, you and I are nothing alike. Like, that's so cliche. And again, you gotta show, not tell. Show some parallels, man. And then she fucking dies because she takes an arrow for Mulan. Because she's like, yeah, you go, girl. Like, you gotta have more than that. I'm alright with, like, you go, girl messages, but, like, make it make sense. Don't have it be that, like, lame. This movie just doesn't... It failed. It failed on almost every aspect. I rambled quite a bit for this one, so we'll move on. But, yeah, this is definitely a movie I would have ranted about had I reviewed it, so that was sort of my review. At number 35 is Doolittle. Let me tell you, this movie does little for me! Get it? 'Cause... whatever. This is Robert Downey Jr.'s first film after, Endgame, his first non-MCU film after retiring, basically, the role of Iron Man. And, I gotta say, I hope this isn't a sign of what's to come, because, my god, Robert Downey Jr. is not even good in this film. It's just, like, first off, I really don't remember much from this film at all. I do remember this one dragon fart joke, where I almost turned off the movie after that. Robert Downey Jr., again, he's not good in the movie, which disappoints me, because he's probably one of my favorite actors, but the British accent he uses is honestly annoying. Like, it gets on my nerves a little bit. Like, it just sounds fake. It sounds like a British, like, impersonation. It doesn't sound natural. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I also don't like the CG animals. They seem pretty weird. The way they were talking just didn't seem right. There's the one and only Ivan, which I was a bit mixed on. It's later on in this list. But I think the CG animals worked a bit better in that film. They just seemed more natural in that. So I don't know. This one, we're going to move on from this one. Next up, I'll kill two birds with one stone here for one simple reason. At number 34 and number 33, right? That's the next one. At number 34 is Bloodshot. And at number 33 is Spencer Confidential. Now, why am I grouping these two together? Well, because I do not remember a single thing from either of these movies. So we're going to cut these two short. Spencer Confidential, you probably don't even know what that movie is. You probably don't even know what Bloodshot is, but you've definitely seen at least marketing for it, so you have sort of an idea. Spencer Confidential, if I remember what the movie was, I would explain to you what it was, but it was forgettable. The only scenes I remember from that movie are the ones with Post Malone. Bloodshot, however, I cannot remember a single thing, which is why Spencer Confidential is higher. Moving on. At number 32 is the main event. This is a sort of collaboration with Netflix and WWE. And I'm not the biggest fan of WWE. I sort of have a love-hate relationship with just professional wrestling in general, but I do find it rather entertaining, even if it is for the wrong reasons. That being said, this movie pissed me off. And I'm laughing because I might be taking it a little too seriously, but still. This is sort of like trying to mix the Spider-Man story with WWE. Basically, you got this kid named Leo. He's a fan of WWE. He wants to be a wrestler. There's this big thing going on in his area where if you sign up, you can become a wrestler. You can do you can do these tryouts. And it's. He wants to be a wrestler, but at the same time, he's hiding his identity as Kid Chaos. That's the name of the wrestler persona he gets. Kid Chaos. He's trying to hide that persona from his friends, from his family, from everyone in school, really, except for that one time where he just reveals it to his friends for no fucking reason at all. And then there's just random, just stupid stuff like that. Like, there's a scene where his friends get mad at him because he basically ditched them for some talent show that he promised he'll be there, but he's like, nah, fuck that, I'm staying here signing autographs because I'm a wrestler now, fuck you guys. And so his friends get mad at him, and then the next day, he apologizes, and then everyone's just like, okay, the existence of this movie is generally harmless, I might be getting a little too pissed off here. It's a fucking WWE movie. I don't know what I expected, but I don't know. I guess I kind of expected them to care a little bit more. Project Power, which is also on Netflix. I just realized when making this list, wow, I watched a lot of Netflix movies this year, specifically Netflix. But Project Power honestly seems like a movie that you could have marketed and everything as a theatrical film. I'm not quite sure how well it would have done in theaters. Had we been under normal circumstances and everything, I'm not quite sure how well this would have done in theaters. So I think it makes sense that they put this on Netflix. And I dig the concept. The concept alone got me interested. Basically, you get pills, they give you powers for a short amount of time, but they also have the chance to fucking blow you up and you die. So take them with caution. So basically, it doesn't capitalize on the concept though. It's another very forgettable Netflix original movie. It had so much promise too. That concept alone, I simped for that concept. Luckily, we ain't on Twitch. I ain't getting banned today, because we're not on Twitch. So I fucking simped for that concept. Alright? I just realized, no, but that concept's a great idea that they didn't capitalize on it at all. And there's this one scene where there's just the main character played by Jamie Foxx. I don't even remember the fucking character's name, but played by Jamie Foxx. He's going around killing people in this one laboratory, but we get this other room with some lady in there who had just taken the pill, and it's sort of actually disgusting, just because we're seeing sort of it from the lady's perspective as she's fucking writhing in pain. It's just what is this? And why are we in her perspective? What the fuck? If I review this movie, probably go check that out. But yeah, so we're gonna move on. At number 30 is Stargirl. a Disney Plus original released like literally like the start of the pandemic, I'd say, or like the Friday of. I remember it came out the same day as Caillou and DPX season 2, DPX animation show. Now, what was this movie? I don't know, but it's not like it was forgettable. Like, I don't know what this movie was. I watched the film, and I was sort of just like, what did I just watch? Like, not like this, what? It's not like, what the fuck was this? This was terrible. What did I just watch? It was like, huh? What? What was this? What? I don't know what this movie was. I don't know. I remember kind of enjoying it, but I kind of thought I would forget about it within the next day, which I did, by the way. It's just weird. And it is the next day right now. Yeah. Anyways, that's why you can see light. Alright. Anyways, yeah. Next up, at number 29 is SpongeBob Sponge on the Run. Did you even know this movie came out this year? That's because it kind of did and it kind of didn't. It came out in like basically it came out in like, I think, like UK theaters and in like Canadian theaters, I think, and the rest of the world except for North America came out on like Netflix and CBS All Access. How did I manage to see it? I have my ways. This movie kind of frustrates me a little bit. Now I must say I haven't watched much recently, but I liked SpongeBob. In fact, I used to love SpongeBob. I've grown out of it, but honestly, every now and then I'll watch like a few SpongeBob episodes, whether it be, you know, the Krusty Krab Pizza or Band Geeks. One of those two. Honestly, the best episode of like any show. So, what frustrates me about this? I was worried about the animation style. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it looks great. It looks really good, actually. Like, especially seeing it in action, it looks really good. What bothers me though is that it's the art style or the animation style that Camp Coral show is going to use, that Steven Heilenberg was very against doing, and now that he's dead, the execs over at Nickelodeon are like, yeah, let's do this show. And I fucking hate it when companies do that. Like, respect the wishes of your former mentor that passed away. Come on, it almost seems like you're doing this in spite of them. But anyway, that's like a rant for another time. I could rant about that all day. But what frustrates me about this, though, is that Camp Coral show, this movie really only exists to promote that. That's what frustrates me. Because, like, sure, they told a story in this, but the story's not important. Or at least, that's not the reason. This movie doesn't exist to tell a cool story about SpongeBob and his friends. It exists to promote the Camp Coral spin-off show, where they're all kids. And it was so obvious when they were flashing back to like when SpongeBob and friends were kids, and there are many inconsistencies. Like, isn't Squidward supposed to be 10 years older than SpongeBob? But wait a minute, they went to camp together, so they're like the same age. I don't like see like what the story that was secondary. It's not even like. You can have this movie to promote a fucking show, you know. The issue is they made it so obvious that they were trying to promote a new spin-off show. And I think SpongeBob as a franchise right now is creatively bankrupt, and I don't know, it's like The Simpsons or Family Guy. Or The Walking Dead, although The Walking Dead's not, like, cartoony or anything, but, like, shows that will never fucking end. And will go as far as it can to stick around, almost. I gotta rant about this movie, though, because, like, the plot is basically, okay, so Plankton wants to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula, right? He finds out that it's actually SpongeBob he has to get, not Mr. Krabs. So King Poseidon, who's the third iteration of King Neptune, by the way. King Poseidon uses snails to like clean his face, but so he runs out of snails, so he puts out flyers telling, hey, you get a bunch of money or whatever if you bring me back a snail. So naturally, Plankton steals Gary. SpongeBob is searching for Gary. So now the Krusty Krab is missing SpongeBob. The Krusty Krab falls apart pretty much, and now Mr. Krabs, Squidward, Sandy, and Plankton for some reason are all looking for SpongeBob now. That's basically the plot, and if like the Gary is missing plot has been done before, if it feels secondary to the fact that it exists to promote a new spin-off for the series, and I don't like that. If you want to make a movie, the first and foremost is you tell the story. Number 20 is the New Mutants. How long has this movie been like in the works? Like, we got our first trailer like 3 years ago. Like, that's fucking crazy. 3 years before the movie actually came out, and then it was ready to release in April of 2020. Then pandemic happened, pushed that back again. And why they didn't release that on Hulu or Disney Plus is beyond me, but they released it in theaters in August. And I actually had my first experience at a drive-in theater. I had never been to a drive-in theater before seeing New Mutants. I reviewed the movie though, so I'm not going to dwell on this one too much, especially because there's not much I really remember from it. I was probably a lot happier with the movie just because it was good to see a theatrically released movie. So that alone got me excited to see it, but on its merits as a movie, it's kind of forgettable. It is a very tight movie, as in there's only like a handful of characters in the movie. Our main characters are like the only characters we see, and that actually worked very well. I remember liking that, just because the focus was on them, and there was no excuse for the focus to be on anyone else. But I just don't remember much here. Number 27 is Guns Akimbo. This one I did not review, so I can talk about this for a little bit. Basically, this movie stars Daniel Radcliffe, and the concept is pretty cool. The concept is pretty much Daniel Radcliffe is this big nerd. If he watches like this live stream event, which is also kind of a video game, it's sort of weird. But then he gets thrown into it, and he has to compete and win some live stream event, basically like a purge, I guess, or not a purge. Just he has to be the last. It's like a battle royale, I guess. That's what I was looking for. And he doesn't want to be in it though, but he gets guns bolted to his hands. So he has no choice, and he also has to like live with the guns bolted to his hands. Seeing him, try to do anything with his guns bolted to his hands was interesting. Where it falls apart though is that he becomes like an expert marksman, so all the stakes are gone, and it just falls apart from there. Also, the ending was weird. Like, the climax happened, the third act happened, yeah, and then it just sort of ended. There was like some like monologue that ended the movie, and it was just like, what just happened here? It was weird the way the movie ended. I don't have much to say about it though. It's an interesting movie. It has a cool concept, and also the struggles of Daniel Radcliffe, with the guns bolted to his hands. Like, that was, I think, really cool to watch him struggle through, and unique and interesting to see like how he manages that. And then he just becomes an expert marksman. I said this already, but that's just the main issue. Like, the stakes are gone now. But yeah, that's all I got. And number 26 is The Lovebirds. Now, I don't know, this one was weird. I didn't have much of a desire to see this movie originally. But then it came out, nothing else was coming out. This was like the biggest thing pretty much, because, you know, movie theaters were closed. This was on Netflix. Had it gone in the theaters, I would have never seen this. But I saw it on Netflix. It was fine. Honestly, if it hadn't been for the two main leads, Kumail Nanjiani and I forgot the woman's the actress, but they both did fantastic. Like, they were absolutely great in the film, and they honestly carried the movie. And you do also see, basically the movie's about like these two lovebirds. You know, they are lovers. The movie starts off with sort of a flashback of them, you know, first falling in love. 3 years later, they get, you know, they're starting to feel their relationship. They're starting to feel those 3 years. And you do too. Like, you're kind of with them when they argue, but also, the thing is, a lot of this stuff goes on for too long. Stuff that would be funny had they not gone on for as long as they did, it goes on forever. Like, there's this one scene where, at the beginning, where they're talking about some game show, and it's like, okay, they're arguing about a game show, I guess it's a little funny, and it goes on forever. It goes on way too long. It's like, alright, it's not funny anymore. Can we move on now? And then there's this other scene where they're in a taxi, and they fucking Katy Perry song Firework is playing, and it's like fucking, and I never liked that song. And then she tries to get him to sing along. That scene just goes on too long. I had to skip it, because first I don't like that song, but second, it just went on forever. And also the villain was kind of lame. He was your typical mustache twirling villain, and quite literally, like, from what I remember, his name was Mustache, or at least that's what he went by. And he was lame. Yeah, the movie's alright. It's not offensive. Its existence is harmless. But I'm just saying, it's just like, had it not been for the two main leads, this movie would have been much lower on the list. And number 25 is Extraction. Now, Extraction, when I reviewed this movie, my brain was hurting. Not because the movie was like crazy, the movie was stupid or anything. Although I do remember kind of making it seem like that. But I figured it out. My brain hurt because I didn't know what to think of it. You know, because on one hand you have some action, some fantastic action. 11 out of 10 action sequences, and that's a good 50% of the movie, by the way, are these 11 out of 10 action sequences. And then there's the rest. Now, I actually do remember the main character's name, played by Chris Hemsworth. We got Tyler Rake. I only remember that, though, because, like, right before that, he uses a rake to kill someone. And it's like, aha, his name's Tyler Rake, and he just used a rake to kill someone. Without, like, that, I would have not remembered his name. And then we have the kid. Well, I don't remember the kid's name, but he's sort of like with Chris Hemsworth for the whole movie. Because I don't even remember the plot of the movie. All I remember are those action sequences. I've gone back and watched and skipped through the whole movie just to watch those action sequences. Because those action sequences are fucking awesome. There's even this, like, one, like, action sequence that's, like, an 11-minute long, almost continuous shot, as it seems. And it just, it's awesome. But it's like, what was the plot again? You know? Yeah, I guess that's all I have on that. It's, the movie I don't think was very good. I could probably actually recommend it for the action sequences alone, though. I'm telling you, it had some of the best action all year. But, the rest of the movie is just really, really bad. And yeah. Next up is Timmy Failure. I was a bit harsh on this one, but it's not. I haven't heard, like, it's not the talk of the town or anything, but I've heard some people talk about it, and I do think it's a bit overrated. Basically, what you have here is this kid named Timmy. He's this kid who kind of like lives in his own little fantasy world. He thinks he's like a detective. He has like a pet polar bear. Obviously, it's in his head. And yeah, he sort of learns a lesson to, like, you know, learn reality almost. And yeah, I thought that was cool, but the thing is, there's like many things that are just dumb. Also, the movie sort of just ends. Like, it ends with Timmy eating a cookie, but then there's a fucking bomb in there, right? And then he blames it on the Russians. Alright, the Russians are evil in this movie, but the Russians are Asian, actually. So, what? And so, he's about to do something. The movie ends, though. The movie ends when he's about to do something. What? Next up is the one and only Ivan. This movie wasn't even on my radar until, like, a few months before it came out, where they started actually advertising this movie as a Disney Plus film. And I'm like, alright, I'll watch this. It looks cool. I will say the talking animal thing is just better than Doolittle. In Doolittle, it just seemed so weird. In this film, though, it seems fine. Like, it seems natural. It seems like we're in a world where animals talk, except they kind of don't. They're really, like, humans don't understand them, you know. So, yeah, basically what this movie is, it's based off a true story, too. Basically what this movie is this one man has a whole circus, and he has a gorilla, a pet gorilla, who he almost raised as his son, who he adopted. And he started to get too big for the house, gets thrown in a circus, but he's all like sort of seemingly trapped in there. And he's with a bunch of animals. They want to escape. There's an attempted escape, and then basically there's like a news reporter that's there. Someone goes up to the news reporter, yada yada yada, and they get freed. The thing is, had the ending not been so great, I thought that ending was really fucking good, man. Like, the ending saved the movie. It saved it. The movie before the ending, it was just tonally weird. Like, first off, you got talking animals here. You know, that's already, like, that's saying one thing tonally. But then you have, like, people, you have, like, they want to escape. They're like, trapped, and they don't want to be there. So, I mean, so tonally, it's all fucked up because the movie tonally is like all sad and shit. But like, you have talking animals, so it's very weird. It's very weird. And I'm telling, before the ending, the movie was rather boring. I was pretty bored. I don't know what else to say here, though. The ending saved it. Had it not been for the ending, the movie would have been a lot lower. So yeah. At number 22 is Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon. I don't know. I don't remember anything from this movie. It's an interesting movie. I saw it because I thought it was interesting how it apparently doesn't have any dialogue in the movie. And so I watched it, and it didn't have any dialogue, but you're able to understand certain things that happened. You know, you're able to understand stuff just by, like, you know, expressions on the characters. But why it's higher here, but not too high, because I don't really remember much. But why is it higher than, like, other movies that I don't remember anything from? Well, this movie I remember liking. I remember it being good, but not too memorable. Just I remember it being good, alright? It doesn't have much staying power though, so we're moving on. Number 21 is Scoob. I don't know, I think this one is definitely a controversial pick, because I get the complaints, and upon thinking about it more, like, yeah, the big complaint I hear with this movie is that they went in a very poor direction. You know, this is supposed to start a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, but it's just, instead of doing like a little Scooby-Doo movie, they try to do a huge, like, Scooby-Doo blockbuster superhero movie. You know, in this first film in the cinematic universe, they throw in other characters like Blue Falcon and Dick Dastardly. Like, no, you should have a Scooby-Doo film and then include, like, you could even have Scoob 2 be this exact same movie, and then include those other characters. Imagine if Iron Man, the first Iron Man in the MCU, imagine if that also had Captain America and Thor and Hulk, and it just didn't seem like an Iron Man movie anymore. That's basically what this film kind of was. Also, Scooby and Shaggy, they're split up for a good portion of the movie, and yeah, that is really, like, it's not a Scooby-Doo movie. And it's okay if, like, you know, you want to build up a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, you want to throw in these other characters, you should do a normal Scooby-Doo movie first. Why is it this high, though? This is pretty high. Well, I found it enjoyable. I liked the movie. I didn't think it was bad. I don't think it was terrible. Many people were very hard on it, and I understand why, but I don't think it was that bad. I thought it was, well, enjoyable. I thought the animation style was a bit weird looking, but I got used to it, and when I did, it was pretty good. Yeah, Simon Cowell makes a fucking cameo, and that was just weird. That was probably one of the worst parts of the movie. Nothing against Simon Cowell, but it's just like, what is he doing in this film? And number 20 is Bad Trip. This is an Eric Andre movie, and I don't know, it's sort of technically not really a movie. It's sort of filmed in the way like Borat is, and I talk about Borat a little bit later on this list. But Bad Trip is basically, the plot here is, shit, I actually don't even remember the plot. The gist, I guess, was sort of Eric Andre and, who plays himself, by the way, I think. See, that's another thing I don't remember much that happened here. I remember liking it. It was pretty funny. But he takes his friend and steals his friend's sister's car, and his friend's sister is like this crazy fucking person, and they go on a trip and they split up because they get mad at each other. But many places they go to, they don't like tell the people that they are, you know, part of a movie. So they in the credits you can see they act surprised when they're all surprised when they find out, oh shit, this was for a movie. Had I not known that, I would have disliked the movie a lot more, because there are camera angles that are like from surveillance, looking like they came from surveillance, and they look like dog shit. But that's because, you know, you didn't want to give anything away. I understand that. It's hard to rank this movie, though. It's hard to compare this movie to, like, basically anything else on here. So I put it at a comfortable 20. And number 19 is Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. Now, this is like an animated direct-to-video. I mean, basically everything this year is direct-to-video, but this was never intended for the theaters. It was just going to be a direct-to-video, Warner Bros. Animation film, you know. Like, you see all those animated DC films that I never usually see, although I have heard some good things about specific ones this year. But I did watch this one because I'm a fan of Mortal Kombat. I like it. And, yeah, it was sort of interesting how they went with a Mortal Kombat movie for their animated line of films, as opposed to, you know, another DC film. So the thing is, I reviewed this film, so I won't touch on this that much, but it's sort of like the third time we get told this story. It's Scorpion's. It's the story of Mortal Kombat, but told through Scorpion's perspective, so that's where it's different. But yeah, to sum things up, my main issue with the film, that was sort of, it's the third time we're told the story, maybe told from a different perspective, which is good, but maybe tell a different story next time. That and Johnny Cage is a bit annoying in the movie. I get he's like a movie star, and that's his thing. So like he's on like this like mission, this deadly mission, right? And he sort of thinks he's in a movie, and it's funny at first, but then it like takes a while for him to realize that he's not in a movie set. He's like, this whole thing's real, and it's just like, well, dude, it's not funny anymore. Just get to the point. Realize that you're not in a movie. Realize that this is real. So yeah, I don't want to touch on this too much. I did review it. So yeah. And number 18 is Bill and Ted Face the Music. Now, at the start of this year, I had not seen a single Bill and Ted film. However, I heard, much anticipation with this movie as it was coming out. And also, there are a lot of new movies coming. That was when movie theaters were starting to open. I still saw this at home. I didn't see this in the theater, but it was when movie theaters were starting to reopen, at least for me in the States. And, there was one of the big movies. I was going to movie theaters to see Tenet, to see New Mutants. I figured just watch this one at home. So I did. But first I watched the first two, and very quickly, the first one is fucking a masterpiece, alright? The second one tries to be like the first one. It's not terrible, but it's just not as good. The best part of that movie is death. The third one, there are a lot of like callbacks to the first two that feel good, and fucking siren. Just yeah, that siren is done now. I kind of forgot what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted. But oh yeah, I think I do. The whole thing, many callbacks to the original two films. There's many, ties up many things. There's the gag with like the Missy character, and that has a good send off. Whole thing with Ted's dad, not believing him. That gets a nice little send off. The main issue here though is that it sort of tries to do too much at once. There are so many plot lines going on at once. It made your fucking head spin. I reviewed the movie though, so I don't want to dwell on it for too long. So yeah. Number 17 is the Willoughbys. Now it's weird. I remember actually thinking this movie was actually like really fucking good when I watched it. The only problem is I don't remember much of it. I guess it was like towards the start of the pandemic. A lot of these movies that I said I don't remember much of, I watched towards the start of the pandemic, and that's why I don't really remember much from them, because that felt like 10 years ago. But, this movie was good. First off, it's stylish. Very stylish. Stylish and colorful, and it's rare to see animated movies with such style and such color as the Willoughbys. What this movie is, basically, you got Kid. I forgot the main character's name. Then there's his sister Jane, and their two younger twin brothers, both named Barnaby. And I thought they were pretty cool. I thought the cast of characters was cool. Their parents hate their kids though. Their parents hate them, and so it's basically about orphans, I remember it had some great heart to it. It ended with some powerful stuff. It was awesome. I just can't tell you a whole lot about it. I'm not an orphan or anything, but I'm sure this probably resonated with many of them, and If it did, please let me know. At number 16 is Wonder Woman 1984. At the time of recording, I just saw this movie yesterday. And what do I think? It kind of disappointed me, but I still like the movie. It's not a bad movie by any means, but the movie's all over the place. I just reviewed it though, so I'm not going to dwell on this one, but the movie's all over the place. You know, it asks you, like with movies, you're supposed to suspend your disbelief, right? That's like a rule with movies. Any movie, no matter how fictional or non-fictional a movie is, you have to suspend at least a little bit of disbelief. That being said, Wonder Woman 1984 asks you to do that a little too much. The plot is dumb, and the villains are like, it's sort of just why, like, you have Cheetah in the movie as sort of the secondary villain. That's Wonder Woman's, like, that's basically Wonder Woman's Joker. You can't do that. Now, I'm not saying you don't have Maxwell Lord, played by Pedro Pascal, who is great, by the way. Does a great job as this character, but I'm not saying you can't do that. You could, in fact, I think Maxwell Lord was a unique villain, and a really good villain. Just don't have Cheetah then. You shouldn't have both, if you know what I mean. The plot and everything that was going on in this movie was a little too dumb for my liking. It was all over the place. I reviewed it in depth, non-spoilers and spoilers in a different section of the video, so go watch it. It's my latest video before this one. Number 15 is Birds of Prey, which I put back-to-back DC movies. I really enjoyed the movie. It's not perfect. I gave it, it's probably more like a 7.5 rather than an 8 that I gave it, I remember. It was still really good. And if you were to ask me at the beginning of the year, you know, which movie would I like more? And if you were to tell me that I would have liked Birds of Prey more, even a little bit more, I would have, like, punched you. But no, I did. The action is cool. The movie doesn't go on for too long. It's not that long. At least I don't remember it being... That was another thing with Wonder Woman. That movie was 2.5 hours long. It did not need to be that long. Birds of Prey was fine. You know, it was good. The action was really good. I do take issue with Ewan McGregor's character. He does great in the film, but the villain's sort of just there. I also didn't like Cassandra Cain at all. She was just really annoying. Yeah, and many of the other Birds of Prey were also sort of lackluster, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I reviewed the movie, so if you want more thoughts on this movie, go check that out. And number 14 is Tenet, the movie that was supposed to save cinema. And it kind of feels like it did for a little while, but the movie theaters are still closed right now, so Tenet, that one hurt my fucking brain, man. You know, it's about, you know, you follow John David Washington, who doesn't really have a name in the movie. In fact, on IMDb, and it shows the casting, it says John David Washington as the protagonist. That's pretty much his name. I mean, his co-star, you know, Robert Pattinson, who's also in it and is great. He has a name. His character has a name, Neil. But anywho, you know, it's certain things in the movie doesn't make sense. They don't make sense until like the end of the movie. But like obviously, like any movie could be like that, but this movie does in a way that like something makes literally no sense at all, and then the missing piece, like you see it at the end. It's about time. The movie's about time, you know, and inversion, you know, which is what, like, going back in time, as in like you see me moving right now. Inversion be like I moved back, I think. This movie hurt my brain trying to think of like what to say about it. It was good. It was really good. It was confusing, but I I was never bored during it. The audio mixing was fucked. That was something really bad, and I hope the home release of it fixes that shit, and I hope Christopher Nolan can stop fucking with the audio so much. A lot of his films have shit sound mixing, but yeah, I reviewed this movie though, so go check that out. Number 13 is Bad Education. Now, what's this movie? This movie sort of just came out on HBO, but it's really good. It's a true story about how some school superintendent, you know, he's beloved. He has, you know, a lot of people love him, and he's great around the students. He seems like such a real guy, and it turns out he was stealing money from the school and sort of scamming people. And the crazy thing is that the school superintendent right here is played by Hugh Jackman. This guy was fucking Wolverine 3 years ago, alright? And now he's a fucking laid-back gay superintendent. And, like, I would have never thought that from Wolverine. Like, that's crazy. Now, I wasn't, like, familiar with this whole story. It was a big thing back in, like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but 2006, 2007. But, I wasn't familiar, so I was sort of finding out things as I went along, and it sort of seemed like, you know, twists and turns. There were a few things that were sort of unnecessary, like, Hugh Jackman's character sort of has an affair with an old student. I'm just saying it felt a bit unnecessary. I'm sure this actually happened in real life, but they sort of just those parts dragged on for a bit, and the more interesting stuff was everything going on in and with the school. You know, and it was very entertaining, a really good movie, and it's on HBO Max, and, well, I mean, HBO, if you still have, like, I don't know, a Roku, I think that still doesn't have HBO Max, so if you still have a Roku and you have HBO Now, I think you can still watch the movie on there, because it came out before HBO Max did, so definitely give it a watch. At number 12 is Phineas and Ferb, Candace Against the Universe. I reviewed this movie, so I won't dwell on it too much, but this movie I was really excited for, because I'm a big fan of Phineas and Ferb. Until it ended, I would watch that show like every single day, and then during the quarantine, I went back in time, you know, I watched some Phineas and Ferb, you know, some nostalgia trips, and I just got really excited for this movie, and it came out, and I thought it was really good. I don't think it was as good as Across the Second Dimension, the made-for-TV movie. I still think, like, that movie's fucking absolutely perfect. I'd say one of the best made-for-TV movies. This one, you know, it felt a bit weird at times. The plot is also really cool. You know, you have Candace, who's she's been trying to bust Phineas and Ferb for a very long time, for the whole summer, and then, as it turns out, she's actually just doing it because she's jealous of them, and then later she finds out she has a really good relationship with her brothers, and she should not try to get them in trouble. The only problem here, though, is that, like, this is before the finale, so she goes back to busting them around the finale. That was a bit weird. The animation can also be a bit off at times, but really I'm sure that's due to the pandemic. So I let that one slide. What is a bit more annoying was the fourth wall breaking. I'm not completely against fourth wall breaking, but, like, the fourth wall breaking in this movie it got a bit annoying. There's even one point where, like, you could see the animators, the people, like, Dave Povenmire, I think his name is, and I don't remember the name of the other guy. And then they get back to the animation, and then you got like a few seconds of just them looking at, like, the camera, and then Ferb says, "We never speak of this again." And that was sort of just like, it kind of takes me out, you know. That type of fourth wall breaking kind of takes me out. I reviewed it, though. It was a really good movie. I really liked it. obviously it's on the higher half of this list. So yeah, I reviewed it in case you want to see what else I thought of it. Number 11 is Onward. Now, this, before the pandemic hit, this was the last movie I saw in the theaters. And I feel like I haven't had a proper movie-going experience since then. Like, sure, I saw New Mutants at a drive-in, and I saw Tenet in an actual movie theater, but it for some reason, it just didn't feel the same, even with Tenet, even though it absolutely should have felt the same. There's no reason for it not to. I guess there's nothing to be worried about when I saw Onward. But anyways, for quite a bit, this was actually my favorite movie of the year, but then, you know, I decided to watch more movies that came out, like, you know, on VOD or whatever. Anyways, this movie is a Pixar movie. Some people say it doesn't really feel like Pixar. Not because of the animation or anything, but because of the setting. I kind of like this setting. I kind of like how it was, you know, it was like a fantasy setting with, you know, modern technology. You know, you got cell phones, you got cars, you got, you know, all that stuff. I do understand how they don't mix for some people, but I thought it was fine. I thought I dug it. And that ending was unexpected and honestly really fucking cool. Basically, the story is you got two brothers. The two brothers who grew up without a father. You know, they have like a sort of stick that helps them bring back their father that one hasn't seen in a while and the other hasn't met ever. And the whole movie happens when they're trying to do that. And I gotta say, it's a really good journey they go on. It did suffer from pacing issues, I feel, though. That was a big thing. But I don't know, it was a good movie. I had fun with it. I made a review for it, so go check that out. I'm not dwelling on this one too much. Now we get on to our top 10. Number 10 is Borat's subsequent movie film. Hey, beginning this year, we didn't even know this movie was happening, you know. We had no idea, you know, Sacha Baron Cohen shot an entire sequel to Borat. Like, a full, like it was in secret. In secret. Like, word on that should have gone out instantly. But in secret, he shot, like, the whole movie earlier this year. And right before the pandemic, but also into the pandemic, which allowed for certain things. But if you were to tell me this would have made my top 10 favorite films of the year, whoa, would have slapped you. A Borat sequel seems risky because it's something, the first Borat was like somewhat of an anomaly, if you ask me, actually. I feel that movie is like something that's almost impossible to do twice. And it is impossible because they had to take some liberties with this one because people knew who Borat was. So they threw in Borat's daughter. And she adds a lot to the movie. She was great, and she added a lot to the movie. But the movie did feel a bit more scripted than the first one. The first one was sort of just like, let's do this, now let's do that, now let's do this. They don't tell them that this isn't a movie, though. All right. I thought it was like great. The only thing is, it's just some of the things are sort of like, well, it is still hard to do this type of movie twice. It's something hard to capture what made Borat, you know, so good again, you know. This movie really had to take some liberties, and it did, and it was noticeable, but I think it pulled it off very well. I made a review for it, so go check that out. At number 9 is The Gentleman. I know that for many people this was many people's favorite films of the year for a good while, despite it coming out in January. That's just how quiet this year was. But it's number 9 for me. I don't really have enough to say about it in order for it to be higher, but it still made the top 10. So, yeah, I thought this movie was great. It's got great performances from, like, you know, Matthew McConaughey and Colin Farrell and, you know, Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant, his narration in the movie, the narration he has in the movie is fucking great, by the way. He kind of narrates the whole movie, and it's very entertaining. There are also many fight scenes and many, you know, murder scenes that look really cool, and Charlie Hunnam in the film also is really cool, and I think he might actually be the best part. You know, there are scenes where he's controlling the room, and, you know, he gets everyone to listen to him. It's really, like, entertaining. Yeah, this movie was definitely great, and I know it doesn't feel like it came out this year because it came out, like, in January, which was, like, a month or two before the pandemic started. But still, great. And number 8 is The Five Bloods. Now, this movie, I reviewed it, so I won't talk about it too much, but it came out at a very good time. I mean, it came out during the pandemic, during the Black Lives Matter protests, but it was all shot and everything before. This feels like a movie that would have fit very well in the theater. I'm not quite sure how it would have done, so that's probably why it wasn't in there. It was a Netflix movie, and little side note, it's got Chadwick Boseman in it as sort of a soldier who died in the Vietnam War, who only appears through flashbacks. How has that aged? Anyways, I thought this movie was really good. It was a bit long. It definitely was a little too long. It was 2.5 hours, and it didn't need to be that way. They could have cut down certain parts. But if there's one thing to point out in this movie that is, like, even if this, whatever the fuck they're doing with the Oscars this year, I don't know. I don't really care about the Oscars that much. I watched it, yeah, but whatever the fuck they're doing with it this year, look, don't even have, like, nominees. Just give Best Actor to Delroy Lindo for his performance in this movie. Fucking amazing performance in this movie. I'm telling you. And I still don't think it has been beaten out this year. Yeah, I made a review for this movie. Go watch it. Yeah. At number 7 is The King of Staten Island. Now, if you may remember, I reviewed both The Five Bloods and this movie in the same video. So I was way, like, cooler on King of Staten, or no, The Five Bloods, and I gave this one like a 6 or a 7, but, like, as time went on, I didn't think about The Five Bloods that much. I thought about King of Staten Island a bit more, and I was like, wow, that was actually a really good movie. Like, that actually was really good. So, here it is, higher than The Five Bloods, and I'm telling you, I think it deserves to be higher. First off, Pete Davidson. While definitely his performance wasn't as good as Delroy Lindo's in The Five Bloods, Pete Davidson's performance maybe deserves an Oscar nomination. Seriously, he's great in the film, and it also kind of blurs reality, I guess, because I looked into it. Pete Davidson's real-life father actually died. He was a firefighter and actually died, putting out a fire. That's the character he plays. It's almost like, you know, it's almost like a real story about him. And, you know, it probably hits home for many people who don't know what they're gonna do with their lives, you know. He's like 24 and he still lives in his mom's basement. I know that's all pathetic, that's like the joke for a pathetic person, but when you think about it, I know like a lot of people struggle with that, figuring out where their life path is gonna be, and that's where this film will hit hard for people, you know. And the jokes are fine. The jokes are good. I thought the jokes were, you know, they were good. They didn't feel forced or anything. They were good. Yeah, I reviewed the movie, but my review is very different from this, from what I'm saying right now. So yeah, definitely give this movie a watch. At number 6 is Sonic. What the fuck? Tell me, like, what, November of 2019, that Sonic was gonna be this high on my ranking of all the movies? Now, granted, nothing came out this year. This is, like, as good as things got in the theaters. But still, like, even then, Sonic isn't, like, I enjoyed Sonic. This movie has no right to be as good as it is. This is another movie that I thought about more and more. I'm like, you know what? That was actually really fucking good. Sonic is actually... What? Sonic has no right to be this good. And, I don't know, I feel, you know, it's still... I reviewed the movie, but then again, that review, I've sort of changed what I thought about the movie. You know, but, like, you know, I still think the fart joke in the movie was stupid, and Sonic flosses fucking twice, which is also dumb, but, like, it doesn't, like, ruin the movie, because it's still a fun, entertaining, enjoyable, fast-paced, yet still good movie, you know? Sonic doesn't pretend to be an adult or anything. He's a kid, and you see he's a kid, and it just works very well. Also, Jim Carrey, one of the best performances, probably of his entire career. Some say this, that this might have, like, rejuvenated his career. I think it could have, yeah. I'm excited to see a sequel to this movie. Ask me that, like, a year ago, I would have punched you. And number 5 is The Invisible Man. And let me tell you, this movie was probably number 1 for a lot of you. And great, I'm happy for you, but I wouldn't say for me. No knocking on this movie. This movie is fucking awesome, though. You know, just the idea of, like, having basically the main villain, the main threat, the monster of one of these Blumhouse horror movies be invisible and you can't see them, I think is a stellar idea, and this movie capitalized on that very well. Also, the performance that Elizabeth Moss gives is fucking, like, oh my god. Her performance made me feel uncomfortable a couple times. It was so good. You know, because she's, like, fucking going crazy. People think she's going crazy because she sees this man who's invisible. How the fuck are you gonna believe that? But you are with her. Yeah, and she's... But, like, she seems like she's just going crazy. Just going insane. And she sells it so well. So I don't want to give any spoilers away, in case you haven't seen the movie. But that one scene in the restaurant with Elizabeth Moss and her sister, holy shit! If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Why is it at number 5 and not at number 1, like how some of you guys might have it at? Well, I found some issues with the film that I haven't heard too many people bring up. First off, I mean, it's a horror movie, so I should have expected this, but there's a bunch of stupid shit in this that just made me question, you know? Not the stupid shit that I said was in Wonder Woman, where it was hard to suspend my disbelief. It wasn't that much stuff, but there's this one moment where Elizabeth Moss is fucking going crazy. She's on the ground, and her friend's daughter, whose house she's at, she's at her friend's house. Her friend's daughter joins her in her room, and is like, what the fuck is going on? They're talking, and then the daughter gets punched in the fucking face, and you know that's the Invisible Man, so fuck him. But then she thinks that Elizabeth Moss punched her when she's nowhere near, like, arm distance of her. You know, like, nowhere near her. That's one thing that really pissed me off. That and the ending, that ending was very rushed, I feel. And I have never had to look up an ending explained video on a, you know, a movie because I didn't understand the ending before this one. But that doesn't subtract from the overall enjoyment and fucking, you know, excellence of this movie, because it is excellent. Really fucking good. At number 4 is The Way Back. This movie was one of the last movies thrown in theaters before the pandemic happened, and you know, not too many people got to see this movie, which sucks because this movie is really good. Basically, the plot of this movie is, you have Ben Affleck playing Jack Cunningham, who is an old basketball player, like high school basketball player, who is, you know, who's, you know, an alcoholic. You know, he drinks a lot, which right there, that blurs reality, because Ben Affleck was kind of like that. You know, that's sort of his story. So, to put his life back on track, he gets invited to coach a struggling basketball team, struggling high school basketball team at the high school he used to play in, and he helps the team very well. He, you know, puts them back on track. They start winning some games. They start getting along with each other. They don't fight. You know, and there's many great moments. You know, and there's many moments, many things that happen to Ben Affleck's character where you feel like shit. You know, you feel bad for him. It's just, wow. That movie was great, and the ending, like, it didn't necessarily have a good ending, or necessarily a happy ending. The ending was good, but like, it was not necessarily a happy ending. It still manages to leave you on a good note, if you know what I mean. I recommend this movie for anyone, even if you're not a fan of basketball or sports. You know, this is still a good sports movie, you know. And Gavin O'Connor is great at these types of movies, and he directed this one. Definitely give this one a watch. At number 3 is The Old Guard. I was not expecting to like this movie as much as I did, but I found this movie just wildly entertaining. Basically, the concept, you know, there are a few movies on here that failed to deliver on the concept, like Project Power, that was one of them. This movie, however, like, has the concept of immortality, and ways to, like, incorporate that into a movie is interesting, you know, and it does it very well. You have Charlize Theron as this sort of, like, you know, agent, immortal agent, who actually is from, I don't want to give spoilers, actually, but, you know, it has to do with how she's immortal, so, you know, and she sells the role very well. The cast of characters are entertaining as fuck. The action, I don't think the action is as good as Extraction, you know, the action in Extraction. I like how that sounds. I don't think it's as good in that film. The rest of the movie, though, is way better. But the action is still fucking great. And the final action sequence, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. The final action sequence is really fucking good. And the way it ends, that action sequence I'm still talking about, the way that action sequence ends is like, wow, damn, that's goodbye, motherfucker, if you know what I mean. Not to mention the villain in the movie, even by the looks. I don't remember the actor's name, but even by the looks, perfect casting right there. But one thing that I think is better than the action in this film is the sort of like the connection between our main cast of characters. I briefly brought up the main cast of characters, but if the connection between the main cast of characters wasn't as strong as it was in this movie would probably be sort of similar to Extraction. So yeah. I think if you're a fan of these like big blockbuster action movies, I don't know about big blockbuster. I don't know why I said that, but these big action movies, go watch this movie. You won't regret it. It's really good. At number 2, the runner-up for best movie of the year, in my personal opinion, is Trial of the Chicago 7. This was recently my movie of the year, but something beat it. Anyways, I think it, first off, the cast for this movie is great. You got Sacha Baron Cohen, you got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you got Eddie Redmayne, just to name a few. Alright, and they're all fantastic in this film. You know, their characters are great, and the movie was moved very fast, as in like fast-paced. I was expecting this movie to like drag at least a little bit, you know, but no, I don't even think it dragged once. It's about all the Chicago protests that happened years ago, and you know, you get stuff that, you know, you get a bunch of courtroom action. A lot of the stuff happened in the courtroom, but it was always so entertaining. Everything that happened in the courtroom was entertaining. That was a good 80% of the movie, and the other 20% are like flashbacks or stuff that have to do with like the court hearings, and they're all really fucking entertaining and compelling. And that ending, holy shit, that ending was so powerful. I don't want to give spoilers, because I want you all to watch this if you haven't already. That ending was fucking great. I reviewed the movie though, so I don't want to talk about it that much here, because this video's already gone long enough. So yeah, go watch this movie. But taking the top spot for the best movies of the year, or all the movies I saw this year, is Pixar's Soul. Was not expecting this to be number 1, but you know what? It is. I think it might just be newness. You know, I think maybe Trial of Chicago 7, or maybe even The Old Guard might even be the better film as time goes on. But right now, nah, fuck that. Soul is my favorite movie of the year. It was so entertaining. It never dragged. I just reviewed the movie, so probably shouldn't talk about it that much. But, you know, the messaging and the themes on life it gives is something very mature for a Pixar movie, you know. Something I didn't expect to work in a Pixar movie. I'm not even sure if this Pixar movie is really necessarily aimed towards kids, if you know what I mean. I feel like if a kid is not as sensitive about the subject of death, I think kids will love this movie. If they are, they should not see it. And the chemistry you see between you know, Jamie Foxx's character and Tina Fey's character, you know, what goes on with them, you know, it's very compelling, very entertaining. And it's just a really fun time, a really fun watch. And I suggest all of you watch this movie. You know, even if you're fucking Aunt Sam and you hate these Disney movies, watch this movie. Fuck you. I joke. Thanks for watching, by the way. I didn't dwell on this movie too much because I made a review. Like, I just did. I just made a review. It's bundled with my Wonder Woman review. Timestamps everywhere in case you want to just watch a review for this one. But yeah, those are my ranking. That's my ranking of all the movies I saw this year. What do you guys think? You can tell me your favorite movies of the year. You don't have to rank every single one that you've seen this year. You can just give me 10, 5, 3, the whole one movie you saw this year because nothing came out. Whatever. Just tell me something. Anyways, be sure to like this video, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.